All right, we are here, Real Amigos. Why am I so dark today? I'm gonna have to change.
Why are you so dark today? Because we were out in the sun yesterday. That's why.
That's right. That's right. We were filming some content yesterday. It was a good time. Check out. I don't know if we co-created on that, but check out Ian's Instagram, my Instagram. We posted it on there. Pretty fun video. We got another one coming out. It's going to be fun as well. So, yeah, man. Hey, so I'm glad for everybody tuning in tonight. Just Ian and I, we decided that we want to kick all these special celebrity guests off. You know, you guys didn't need any more celebrity guests. You just wanted to hear from us about what the heck is actually happening in Austin. You know, I keep hearing all these people that don't live here, that don't sell real estate, that know nothing about the housing market, chiming in and talking about the housing market in Austin like they actually know what's going on. So we're going to talk about what's actually happening, what we're seeing. And then we're going to go through and talk about some of the property tax relief bills. Somebody asked about that one in the last videos. There is potentially some property tax relief coming for the Austin area, Texas. Really, Phil, good to see you, man. Thanks for moving to Texas and Austin. We need the mullet man back. Yeah, we might bring him back. If you ask nice enough, maybe we will. Just kidding. Hey, so Ian, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'll tell you what. One thing that I've noticed is the market is picking up tremendously for the people that were sitting on the fence or people that are worried. However, there's still a lot of houses that are sitting on the market longer than normal. So we're seeing this kind of weird battle back and forth. And so that's super interesting. But I'm getting calls left and right off the hook. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to make some moves.
Yeah.
Yet we have options that for these houses that are sitting on the market 30 days, 100 days. Like what? So it's interesting.
Yeah, you know, you're right. I think there's a real dichotomy of what's actually happening in Austin. So I put a video out the other day about this, and legitimately, just a short. The moment after that, the next, I put it out, it posted. The video that came up after that was that one I can't even say the word. It's like a blasphemy to say that word, right? You get canceled for saying that word on here. But basically, it was like him doing a short saying, 35% of properties are price reducing in Austin, Texas. So that means that sellers are worried and they're frantic and they're freaking out. And I'm like, says the guy that lives in Dallas that is renting, never purchased, knows nothing about the housing market. And then I saw Bigger Pockets.
Bigger Pockets
video today talking about Austin as well. And in that video, they were talking about, just the data. And what confused me, and I want to talk about both of these and get your opinion on both of these. What he was talking, here's the problem I think that most people run into when they look at the Austin data. I think the only person that does an outside perspective view is Jason Walter. Does a fairly good job on his because he actually breaks down the inner data. So here's two things that are happening with the data that comes out. Number one, you're looking at year-over-year data. Really, we need to focus on both. Year-over-year is important to understand, but also look at the month-over-month, right? Because a year is a long set of data points. And if you're looking at what's happening now as far as mortgage, you look at mortgage applications, right? 1 week they're up crazy, and then today, what is it? The interest rates dropped down to 6.16 today, Ian? I can't hear you. What happened?
I broke it. Yeah, like 6.4. It depends on what you're financing. If it's conventional, 15, 30, whatever.
So down to almost below 6%. I know a lot of realtors are putting out videos about that today. I'm always hesitant to run out and put a video about interest rates because they'll go up tomorrow.
I was going to say that same thing. Yeah, that's such a temporary change, a temporary shift for a long-term asset.
Right. So I want to address. So I want to talk about the deeper pockets, but I also want to talk and address the 35% price reductions and sellers freaking out. Now, when we look at this data, there's 9,600 homes on the market as of right now. That's a lot of inventory for Austin because we haven't really seen that much inventory until really the last half of last year. And that's actually down. If you look at as far as the inventory peak, the inventory peaked out around 10.5 units, and we're down to 96. Now that's for our entire MLS. And my biggest issue when people look at this, go ahead.
With that, how many months of inventory is that though?
Right. And thank you. So that's still 2.1 months, 2.1 months inventory. Thank you for mentioning that. I'll bring this on. So the problem I think people get into trouble with when they look and they try to analyze the data is you'll have like Redfin and all these other places will put out the data, yet they put out the Austin MSA numbers and they don't take into account that Austin and the MSA are two separate things. Because
Yeah.
the MSA, is my screen up? Can you see that?
Yes. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Because here's the deal. Let me go in just one more. There we go. Here's the deal. So this is the Austin MSA. It shows the pricing around 436. But if we go look at the actual Austin housing numbers, Austin, we're at 530. And this is actually month over month up. So that's something I think we need to address, the fact that, yes, active inventory is up 384%. But if you look at it the year over year from last year, we had 1,800 homes. But if you look at the active inventory in Austin, that's only 1,700 units in all of Austin. That's not a lot. And then on top of that, if we look at the MSA, which is Pflugerville, Round Rock, Georgetown, Kyle, Buda, it's basically five counties, right? Travis County, Hayes, Williamson, Caldwell, and Lemoore. That's 7,100 homes in 5 counties. So you're going to get counties that are struggling right now because they're building a lot of inventory. So when you're seeing prices drop, or when somebody says that 35% of homes are dropping, we need to look at a couple things, Ian, right? We look at the fact that if you're looking at the MSA data, you're looking at everything. You're looking at, you're talking, it takes an hour and 15 minutes to get from Kyle all the way to Georgetown. It's not, we're talking a long stretch of highway there, but still 2.6 months inventory for all of that. And if we look at Austin, it's 2.1, I believe, 2.2. The second thing, Ian, and I want to get your opinion on this, but I need to like get all this out of my head first. The second thing is that 35% price drops. I went through, Ian, and I thought it was hysterical because I looked up and found that over 40%, almost 40% of the inventory on the market right now is new construction. But here's what new construction's doing. They're increasing and decreasing, increasing and decreasing, increasing and decreasing. I have some screenshots that I was going to put in a video. It was wild. So the tactic to get those houses to populate on the MLS and refresh is just to increase the price or decrease the price for some of these builders. So that's why you're seeing so many homes price decrease, is all these builders keep price decreasing and then increasing the next day. It's wild. When you start talking, I'll bring it up. The other thing is 35% of price reductions. We are in a different time than we were last year. A lot of sellers, and this is why I've been harping on this, a lot of sellers think that it's 2021 pricing in 2021, which means that, okay, they're not paying attention to the fact that we are still seeing kind of a decline in prices. So they're not pricing accordingly. They're pricing. I had a client that wanted to list a house for 800 the other day, Ian, and all the comps were showing 725. And I'm like, well, the comps are 725. How long do you want to sit on the market listing at 800? So that's a house that would price decrease. I had another client that wanted to list higher than I told them to. That house, we just price decreased. The homes that my clients just listened to me and priced, we are under contract at list price or higher. So I want to get your take on that as well, Ian, and I'll pull up that other stat as far as them increasing and decreasing prices. But what do you think as far as price decreases and all of that from this?
There's so much there to unpack. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is, if you look at the market right now, based on what's closed and what's newly listed, we have 790 or so new listings, and we have 720 closed listings. Our houses are moving, right? So that's really important. But what you said about the sellers still thinking it's 2021 is really, really, really important. What I'll say is a lot of people are getting more realistic about those numbers, but you have to think about their circumstances and why they're moving. The motivation for people moving, if they lost their job, Facebook, they've let go of, what is it? 10,000, 20,000, 20,000 people?
A lot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people, right? And I don't know what the percentage of is in Austin, but other companies are doing the same thing. So those people that need to rethink their strategy might be in desperation mode, right? They might be. Also, if someone wants to relocate somewhere and buy a new house, okay, They are in a house. They want to buy a new house. While they're thinking I can get a deal on this new house that I buy, they're still going to end up where the buyer is doing that same thing for them. And that is such a huge concern for most people. So most of the listings that I've been having the conversations with in the last 2 weeks have been related to people that want to buy something. They're ready. They want to buy. They know this is the time for them. They want to get settled in their new spot. They've been in Austin for a year, 2 years, 3 years. They want to get settled, but they have to sell their house and they don't want to lose money on it. And they have a really solid interest rate that's a little bit lower. And now they're looking at these new interest rates. There's a lot of conversation about the interest rates. And if you took, let's say, 50,000, if you put in 50,000 over on a house, that costs you more over 15 years than if you were to just pay a higher interest rate. That's a conversation that people talk about a lot as well. So, and I don't know the math on that, but you have to do the math per situation.
Well, and so here's what I was talking about. This is that this is a builder. Their price decreased, but look what they're doing. Their price increasing and then decreasing. So again, now this, I pulled this up and this was, dude, every time I clicked on a builder, because I was looking at the price increases, every time I pull up a builder, I'm like, holy crap, let me look at the information. So they're doing this: decrease, 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 increase, decrease, 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 increase.
Well, so do you, I haven't done the correlation, but do these increases correlate with when the interest rate drops?
I don't know about that, but you'd imagine that when a builder increases the price, every time they increase the prices, they sell X amount of homes and then they increase the price. So you could see that they price decrease all of their properties, and then they saw, oh, wait, we got a couple sales, let's increase to see if we can get a higher price for the next one, then decrease, price increase. Because also you could tell a client like, hey, look, we just price increased, so we're going to see more price increases, and then they decrease. So that's definitely a possibility that they're doing shady things like that. Yet this isn't the only builder. And so if you're looking at the market going, oh, 35% of homes are price decreasing, there's a few reasons. Builders are playing with the inventory. They're trying to figure out what to do. So they keep doing these small price decreases. You also have homeowners that are price decreasing that are just overpriced to begin with. And like, dude, this last week, I'm not even kidding you. We had in the last week, 7 clients go under contract. In fact, Eileen's writing an offer right now as we speak for another client. And of the 7, 3 were listings, all good, list price or higher. For the buyers, 2 of them negotiated lower prices and 2 of them had to go at list price because there was other offers coming. So it's a 50-50, right? So not everybody's getting these crazy deals. And here's the reason why I'm telling you this is we had a client that came through and was like crap talking every builder, crap talking every house, and going, oh, I can't believe people are even asking for this price. And we're talking stuff that was priced right and like brand new on the market. And like as he left, a lot of the stuff was going under contract. Like 4 of the 9 homes we looked at went under contract. So I just don't, the problem I think is people hear these other channels, people hear these people talking about how the market in Austin's crashing, and they come here and they're like, they get a culture shock. Well, no, these realtors are lying to me because Riri said that that 35% are dropping and sellers are desperate. Well, yeah, some sellers are desperate for sure. But the one thing that we forget, and the one thing that they never tell you, number one, they'll never tell you about how many people in the buying age there are. Number 2, they won't tell you the fact that, I lost my train of thought, man. I should have started with the second thing. I forgot what I was going to say. Shoot.
So another thing that, and we talk about this all the time, is when you're looking at the data for specifically builders, you pulled up builders price increases. You're only seeing that for one of the 10 houses that they have in that neighborhood, right? Because they're not always putting all those other houses on the MLS. So people that are sitting there thinking that that this is all of the houses, that's not correct. That's inaccurate. They're not getting the full data set.
Yeah. Man, I totally lost my train of thought on that.
I'm sorry.
What was I thinking? Sorry, it's been a long day, man. I've been driving around. I got stuck in traffic for like 2 hours a day. Um, the other thing they don't tell you is like every time we see decreases in interest, oh, I lost it.
Lost your video too.
Oh my God, come on. You can talk. Let me figure this out. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so back to the MSA versus Austin proper. So if you look at any of the major publications or major corporations such as Zillow, Redfin, and just anybody like that, even the builders themselves, most of the time they're talking about the MSA, not Austin proper or the counties themselves or the cities themselves. So all the data is something that can be interpreted. So that's very, 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 very important when you're looking at it. I pulled up homeowner trends that we can look at. I pulled up mortgage rates. We've figured out what those are. Case-Shiller housing index. And then I've got a really good one. I can't share because I think you have control to be able to share. One of my clients sent this to me, and he said, best cities. So this is CNBC. Best cities to buy a home in the United States. And the answer, they stated in the headline, this city is number one to buy a house if you want to increase the value. It's not California. It's not New York. Sorry about that. Obviously, it's Austin, Texas, which I thought was really, really, really cool, considering everything that's been in the news. So looking at the top 15 metro markets, sorry that I have to read this instead of show you. I'll show you as soon as Jeremy gets back. But Austin is number one and they're talking about percent change from home prices since 1998. So this isn't something that's only in the last 3 years. Since 1998, number one is Austin. Next, you have Bend, Oregon, Los Angeles, San Diego, Oakland, Boise, Idaho, and a few others. So I thought that was really, and then Florida, Miami and Naples, Florida are 11 and 12. I thought that was really interesting that since 1998, Austin has had the best percentage of growth over every single major metropolitan area past 25 years.
Yeah, here, I have it for you. Oh God, I can't find my freaking screens. So you have that, and then you also have that Austin was like up to 2022, the hottest job market.
Yes.
So I have both of those for you. Man, I can't believe I lost my train of thought. I'm going to rewatch this and go, God, I should have told people about the other thing they're not telling you. Let's see, share screen.
What is it? The jerk store called and they want you back?
Yeah. There we go. So there's this one. So yeah, so Austin ranks number one best for housing markets for growth from 1998. Now, and here's what kind of frustrates me about those people that have never bought or sold a home, never owned real estate, never done any of this, and they have something to sell you on YouTube, and then they get mad at us realtors and say, well, these realtors just have something to sell, so yada yada yada. Don't listen to realtors. I'm not telling you not to listen to those channels, but the reality is, let me tell you a quick story. So I get why a lot of these people that are hoping for the crash, I get that why they're hoping for 2008. I took advantage of 2008. 2009, we bought a property, made some money on that, sold it, bought another property in 2013, sold that, bought another property in 2017, sold that and bought another property in 2022. We have made 7 figures in buying and selling real estate, where we would have not had that, how we would not bought and sold real estate from just homes that we moved into and moved up. And so that's why it's really frustrating to see some of these channels who, I get it, they're people that kind of missed out on the boat of buying. I'm speaking of one in particular, is renting in Dallas and then telling people not to buy. Now, I'm not telling you to buy, but the reality is you can't use a home like you would a stock. And this is where I think this generation that's coming up that's looking at buy homes right now is going, well, yeah, I'm not going to make money on it right away. Well, of course, I'm talking about, I started buying homes in 2009 to 2022 to make seven figures, seven figures, right? And that's off of buying and selling my own homes. And so I get the prices are higher, but the reality is until you get into this market, dude, I have somebody I met with yesterday, Ian. They bought a home with us in 2018. She's getting ready to sell her house and we're getting it ready. We're talking this woman who bought a home was zero down, used one of those T-Shack loans, all of this stuff, literally put zero down, got all this assistance to buy this home, is now going to make a six-figure paycheck when she sells this home. It's money she would never had. And so I'm not telling us to tell people like this is the way to look at real estate, but a byproduct of buying and holding homes is the fact that you can create wealth over time, not right away. And I get it. We're in one of those economies in life where everything needs to be instant gratification. So maybe that's why people just think, okay, I bought a house. Now where's my $1 million?
There's so much to that. I just like you, countless stories of people that could barely make it to get their scrape their down payment together. Fast forward a few years and that was the best decision of their lives. And I mean, you can hear that. You can talk to, out of every 100 people might have a bad experience. And then if you skip 2008, most people will have a good experience if you skip 2008. So, it's interesting. There's a guy who has something like 300,000 followers on Instagram, right? It's pretty good. And he's a realtor, shows homes and everything. And all he does is just do the panning tours and all that. I'm noticing, so he had a post today or yesterday said, I'm finally practicing what I'm preaching and I'm buying my first home. And I thought to myself, how many people has this person guided yet had never gone through the process themselves?
Yeah.
And that is more than 50% of realtors in the United States, according to NAR.
Right.
That's crazy to me. And so when people are watching these YouTube channels and they're not investigating the people that are giving them this information, that's it's kind of scary.
And on the flip side, I keep seeing realtors post that Dave Ramsey track on
Just buy the
Instagram.
house.
It drives me nuts.
Interest rates go up, buy the house.
Yeah, interest rates. So what?
Don't
Buy the house.
buy the house.
You can refinance. God, I hate that. Like that's what makes realtors look bad is when we say things like that, right? And then you have all these realtors that are posting the same thing over and over again. So what? Right? Buy the house. I get it, but not everybody's the same. Not everybody's in the same boat.
The issue is it's good, right? And it's easy to make it a trend. The problem is when people are using it, they're not using it in any sort of context. Right. They're just saying buy the house.
Buy the house.
And someone who's a consultant or taking a consultative approach is telling you to buy it if you need it and it makes sense for you. Anyway, enough about you should buy or you shouldn't buy. I think people know whether or not they should or shouldn't right now. I wanted to talk about that same article referring to the Austin housing market. So right here, the source is actually smartasset.com is the source article from what I can tell, or at least from the one that I clicked. Anyway, the thing I wanted to mention is most of those cities, most of those are cities, but Austin is talking about the MSA. It's not just Austin proper. Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown. So this is a perfect example of what you were just referring to, where you have this data set and it's talking about how great Austin is, but it's not just Austin. It's the Austin MSA. But all the other cities, Midland is just Midland. Boulder is just Boulder. See?
Yeah.
Dallas is also roped in with Irving and Plano. So they did it too. San Antonio is with New Braunfels. You see, like they're playing these games with the data.
Well, right, and that's like saying that that when you look at Dallas data, that Dallas data is all the same, all of it's the same. Well, it's not, because you have Dallas, you have Fort Worth, you have Prosper, you have all these subsidiary areas around of it, and they're all very localized. So if you're going to talk about it, you need it to explain and I think this is where people miss, and I don't think it's their fault, because this is the number, like Redfin puts out these numbers and they go, oh, look, like I watched this video on Bigger Pockets today, and he's like, look, there's 13,000 homes on the market. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I pulled up the data right there. I'm like, it's 9,600 homes. How is Redfin coming out with 13,000 homes for sale? Like, that makes no sense. And then it's saying, you know, something else about it was about the inventory and the prices. And I'm like, but Austin's not that price. Austin's higher. And he's like, well, this is the aggregated data. I'm like, that's the MSA data. That's not the Austin data. Two separate data points.
Did he possibly
go ahead.
Did he possibly misspeak and mean housing starts?
No, because that would still be, you know, well, yeah, no, it just said inventory. So, but he's pulling data from Redfin. So what I'm saying is, like, when you're pulling data from these other sites that are like Redfin, Zillow, all these other sites, you're not actually getting from the actual source. You're getting kind of like just secondhand data. And so that's what I don't like about when you look at other channels that pull that same information. That's why I love what Jason Walters says. At least he's being honest about it, because he's showing you the month over the month. He's showing you the year over the year. He's showing you everything, and he's pulling it directly from Able. So interesting stuff there.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, where's everybody at in the chat? Did everybody leave? All right, so the other thing I want to talk about, so overall, to summarize the Austin housing market right now, it's still moving along. Prices in Austin are going up right now. They may be flat for March when the March numbers come out, so there'll be some good information in that.
Yep.
There are a lot of homes in the market, so if you are buying, be patient, because there's going to be more inventory hitting the market. If you're looking in an area outside of Austin, you have a better chance of getting potentially a better deal, because there is more inventory. There is more new construction inventory. Now it goes back to that time, Ian, that I told everybody, be careful when you buy a new build neighborhood, and be careful buying in a new build neighborhood that has a really high tax rate, because if you do need to sell in a couple of years, you're going to be fighting against the builder if it's building for a really long time. And I'm starting to see that. You know, a prime example, if I were to tell somebody not to buy in a neighborhood, it's going to be that neighborhood Blanco Vista down in San Marcos. Now, San Marcos, I pulled up the numbers today, was one of the biggest drop cities around Austin as far as month over month. It was a big drop. It went from like 325. I can pull the numbers in a minute, like 325 down under 300. But I have people that are getting ready to sell homes over there, and there's 70 homes available on the market, plus the builders are still building. So be careful of that. Are there jobs still coming to Austin? Yes, I can go to the Austin Business Journal right now. Somebody else just announced they're bringing more jobs from California. So yes, there are jobs coming. Anyway, so let's talk about this other thing. So the market's still moving. So be patient. If you're a seller, make sure you price your home. I mean, that's the three things I can tell you about that. The other thing I'm going to talk about tonight is the fact that Texas is talking about doing the Texas Senate passed a $16.5 billion package to lower property taxes. It still has to get voted on, so we'll talk about this in a second. Ian, did you read into this at all?
Sorry, I was pulling up labor force. I've got it shared on the screen.
Oh, labor force.
That's fine.
Should you buy in Treviso right now? Am I getting trolled, or is this an honest question? Would you buy a home in New Braunfels or Bastrop as an investment property?
So New Braunfels is.
Oh, I don't know if I want to answer that question.
Okay.
I
was going to say interesting, and then I was going to go into more, but.
No, I feel like we give out too much free information. I get people that call me and they're like, "Hey, Jeremy, I just want to know what I should negotiate with this builder to get a better price," and they don't even want to work with me. I'm like, "Why would I give you free information? Like, you want to pay me a consulting fee, sure, but you don't want to use me on that. You just want free information. No." So this is one of those ones. I'm like, am I giving too much free information by giving them the answer to this? Because I'm buying in one of these two as of literally right now. We just sold our South Padre home. Prime example. I listened to my own knowledge here. We listed our South Padre home. Instead of waiting 2 more months, which is the prime part of the market, I listed it in March. Like I've been telling everybody, you should be listing in March. We went under contract in a day. And
Yep.
now there's 7 more homes on the market, very similar to ours, same price
Yep.
range. They're all sitting there.
Less competition, and you probably priced it very well,
Yep.
knowing that you were going to get that kind of those kind of results.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What is this that you're adding here?
Oh, it was just the jobs,
Oh, jobs.
employment. I mean, there's no real dip, really. So you've got a little. Yep, you're good. So the question was just, are there jobs still coming to Austin? So
Yeah.
obviously there were a ton in 2020, but they're still growing.
Okay. So I want to get to this. So Senate passed a $16.5 billion package to lower property taxes. So in this, there's a lot of information here. So there's like 3 different sections to this. So basically, there was $33 billion kind of sitting in the side from collected from property taxes. So the biggest part of what is collected in taxes right now goes to schools. Yet a lot of what we have happen is it's the largest part, but these schools still pass more bonds to get even more money. So you're paying, and then they take that over to the CAD and they go, hey, here we go. We want to raise more taxes, so raise more taxes. So there's 3 sections of this that will help with property taxes. And one of them is highly contested. Now, when people get upset about Texas, they always blame Republicans for everything. Yet the 3 parts of this were all, if you read right here, it was a great testament to Republicans and Democrats working together for all their constituents. So both sides heavily voted for this. One part of this bill that they're talking about. So overall, it's only going to drop our taxes $500 a year, maybe.
Yeah, $300, $500 a year, like not even worth. It's negligible to most people.
And I read a second article about this, an opinion piece, and I'm actually asked this person to come on the channel, so I'll let you know if they do. But they're talking about how part of it is that they're giving more exemptions for homeowners. So basically, you can try to deduct a little bit more, and it's only going to drop it down. This said, if you go from $40,000 to $70,000 bump, and seniors get $20,000 as far as what you can, if you have a homestead, how much you can claim off. It's only going to save seniors $227 and regular people like us $341. So it's really not that much. But what they're going to do is take part of this $16 billion, give it back to not really give it back to homeowners, but fund the schools with it. Some pushback on this is the fact that over the next few years, we may not see the same income in taxes and sales taxes to offset this. So it might become a problem. So there was that. The second thing is part of it, and this is the one that's a little bit contested, is SB4. Let me get to it. So SB4 is an effort to lower the property tax wealthy districts. So here's what happens right now. We have a thing called Robinhood. So what happens is that, let me go back to the opinion piece real quick. So the opinion piece says going from 40 to 70 doesn't actually help, because what it does is it increases the property taxes for businesses and increases the property tax for investors that purchase homes. So that actually doesn't really reduce taxes by doing that. It causes people that have rentals to go ahead and sell their rentals. Now, so there's a lot of pushback on that. And this is what somebody said. So I'm trying to get this person on. So we'll see what happens here. But SB4 is going to lower the wealthy districts, which is Robinhood. So Austin is a prime example. Half of the revenue generated from property taxes goes back to the state, and it is distributed to other areas. So they're talking about part of this as SB4 is curtailing this and making it so it's not as much money going back to the state. So it'd actually be a lot less. Doing this would actually potentially reduce taxes a lot. But this is where there's still some people are kind of don't know what'll happen at this. So Ed Ramos, Chief Financial Officer. And so this is what's going to happen. You're going to have Austin say things like this. Ed Ramos, Chief Financial Officer of Austin ISD, said Austin's property tax values are expected to grow beyond the state's growth rate. If SB4 were to become law, this would mean the district would have to lower the rate it uses to tax property owners for the maintenance and operations. But that's actually not true. That's not where the funds come from. So it's interesting when you hear people blatantly lie to the media. And I read this article, and there was a couple think tanks that were in here, and they said some information to the paper that was 100% false. So curious, I'm curious what you think if this will actually reduce property taxes and help.
So let's talk about if they do it, if they increase the taxes and an investor has
the taxes, they're increasing how much you can deduct from your homestead.
Yeah,
but they're reducing it. They're trying to reduce the taxes overall, and some people are saying it's just not enough.
Right. Well, it's nothing. So they're not reducing it enough. But I wanted to go back to the investor portion of it, because you were talking about investors that have these houses, they're probably going to sell. And I'm thinking to myself, but if the investors have a lot of equity in the home, if they have a lot of equity already, and they're not like in a desperation mode, then maybe they won't sell. Maybe instead they'll just raise all the rents, right? Like if you have a house that's paid off, I'm sure, I mean, it sucks. Your property taxes are going to go up. You're expecting to cash flow a certain amount, but you're not going to sell. You're going to wait it out. You're going to increase the rent and hope that you get that, right? So they're not fixing the issue that way.
Right.
But yeah, also a lot of the articles say this is a joke. This doesn't actually help us, only a couple $100. So here's my question for anybody who's watching this. What would be a substantial, what would be worth it for you for a decrease in your annual property tax? So if you're currently paying $15,000 a year annually, we know $200 isn't going to do it. What's the number that would do it for you? And don't say 15,000. We know it's not all of it. You have to pay property taxes, but what is the number that would make this worth it to you, or that you'd hope to see?
I don't think that Texas is ever going to do a Prop 13, because we don't collect income tax. So it'd be really hard for us to do that.
That's like somebody giving you money and then you're saying, no, don't give me so much. Like, stop giving me so much money.
Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. I think we always get like a bait and switch when it comes to the property taxes, because like what Austin did last year is they said, okay, we're going to raise for pandemic relief. We're going to raise. Okay. Sorry. I got, I'm getting texts for deals right now.
Life.
So it's kind of a bait and switch. So what happens is that they will, instead of lowering that amount, the 40,000 to 70,000, what they'll do is they'll reduce the taxes and go, hey, by the way, we reduced the taxes a little bit on this. So you're welcome. It's going to save you money. But then the CAD comes out and they go, oh, well, we're going to raise the value of your home. So it actually doesn't do any good.
Zero. Does nothing for you.
It's just, if they kept it at the current tax rate, what would end up happening is the fact that they would collect way too much money. Then they'd have an overage, basically like what the state did with income taxes. The tax law limit change would be more beneficial to me. If I was paying $15K, I would want $10K. I agree.
Yeah, that's reasonable, right?
Yeah. From $15K, maybe get 3,000 or 4,000 back. But you're only going to get. And that's the problem. Is this is something that we've talked about, and I've tried to warn buyers when they're buying these new construction neighborhoods at 3%. Is that when you buy a new home, the taxes are not set. The rate is what it is, but the valuation of your home is not set. So if you bought a home for, let's say, $500,000. The tax district doesn't know what you paid for it, so they're going to go, oh, your house is $600, so here's the taxes. And you go, no, I paid $500. Hey, the problem with that is now you just gave them, it's a non-disclosure state. You just gave them what you bought the home for, and on top of that, now you're actually getting the taxes right at the value of the house. You want the tax assessed value of your home to be as low as possible.
You want it to be low. If
I had a $500,000 home, I would want the tax value to be $100,000. I would not want it to be $500,000, because now what you thought was going to be $7,000 or $8,000 in property taxes is $15,000 based on those numbers.
Right. And so, like, just to put it into easier math for people that are saying, so like Phil, you said 3,000 to 4,000 back. Let's split the difference and go 3,500. You get 3,500 back. You're saving $300 a month. So if $300 a month is, if that's a good savings for you, then I think that's a good number for most people. I think that's a good number for a lot of people. That's an extra car. Well, it's half a car payment now, I think. I don't know. I haven't had a car payment in 15 years, but I think it's half a car payment.
So the state revenue doesn't come from property taxes, to my knowledge. The state revenue comes from sales tax. So that's largely where it comes from. The municipalities is where the money goes back to. So the only thing is that depending on where you live, Austin, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, I live in Dripping Springs. Half of our revenue for our schools went back to the state, and then that gets collected and then distributed to other like lower income areas. Now, the thing is, now if you drive by one of these like lower, I guess, income areas, you go buy this big, beautiful stadium worth $50 million. Where do they get that from? Well, from recapture. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to be driving in the middle of nowhere and you see this like $1 billion stadium that just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, what the heck? Hutto, yeah.
So I wanted to pull this up. It looks like it's older data, but it still gives kind of a good indication. Look how much money they get from lottery. But it's just kind of a breakdown of where Texas gets a lot of his money. So just like you said, sales tax is primary. License fees, fines, and penalties. I was just talking about this the other day about how, we've got our electric vehicles and we still have to pay an emissions tax. Still have to do our emissions test because they make a lot of money off of this. And unless they start taxing the roads, they'll bleed money. They'll lose money. Yeah. Motor vehicle sales tax, fuel tax. So they're losing. So with electric vehicles, they're losing the fuel tax. They're losing some of the fees. Cigarette, alcohol, tobacco. That's kind of interesting. Alcohol is obviously big in Texas. Oil production is big in Texas. Lottery, never would have pegged that one as being important. That important. So. And I don't know how much this has changed. Obviously, this is older data, but I think it's good to see.
So I keep going. I'm trying to respond to a client. Sorry.
That's all right. What was another thing we wanted to talk about? So let's see. The state tax argument is a bit weak. Out of all states that don't have state tax, Texas has the highest property tax. Yes, and Texas has a lot of people. Well, not as many as California, but it also has a lot of industry to support, is how I'll say it. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of things that they can use the money for. And so I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying they're leveraging it. You see how fast, you see our rate of growth, right? And I think that's important, an important consideration. I don't know how frequently they have to fix the roads, but it seems like it's literally every day that they have to do that. So Phil says you can lease a Tesla Model 3 for about $350 a month. Very cool. Oh, that's good to know. So yeah, so you'd be able to lease a car, a nice car, if you saved $4,000 in property taxes a year. But what we're saying is that right now you're saving $300 annually.
Right. Well,
yeah. So you could get a month
really,
of it.
The thing is, it's taxes that you were going to spend, so you're not really saving, right? $340.
Right.
Like you're kind of not saving it. But in reality, if you look at all of these, the ways they had separated this, it's not going to save $3,000 to $4,000. Like right. A prime example, people in my neighborhood right now are spending $18,000 a year in property taxes. It's not going to drop at $5,000. It's going to drop at 800 maybe.
Right.
So I don't know, man.
But it was going back to the question of like, what do you want to see it drop? If you're paying $20,000 in property taxes, you probably only want to pay 14. You probably don't want to pay that, but 14 seems more reasonable to most people. Cut it a quarter. So Phil also says we have high property taxes, but the houses are cheaper than California. Yes, they are climbing. You can get a box in Austin for $1 million too. Also, but
I think that's what's interesting is, this client that we had that came through over the week was like, oh, I want to buy $1 million property, but he was very specific on what he wanted, which was great. Be specific, it's great. But I think they were a little surprised at what you actually got for what you want. I think people, when they come to Texas or Austin, think, okay, I can buy this $1 million property and I'm going to get 4 acres and all this stuff. And then they come out and are like, well, hold on a second. It's not as cheap. Like, why isn't it as cheap?
You're still saving price per square foot. But you're right. If you go outside of Austin proper and you start hitting some of the other MSA areas, that's why Round Rock and Georgetown have grown so fast. Half of Round Rock, because the houses were built in the 80s and 90s, the property taxes are sub 2%. Like, that's huge for people, where all these new construction communities, a lot of them are 2.4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 3.2%. And so that's why Round Rock and Georgetown had those crazy growth spurts, because they had the room to grow. They had lower tax rates, and the sales prices were still substantially lower than Austin proper. And it was only a 30-minute drive. I have a client that was looking at houses, never been to Austin, right? Looking at houses, getting ready to write an offer on a house in Kyle, will be working in Cedar Park. And I said, no.
What are you doing?
Please don't. Well, he didn't know. He had no idea, never been here. And through his discussion with somebody who didn't know either, who was kind of advising him in this situation, was telling him, he's used to driving an hour and 15 minutes. And so he's like, that's okay. And I was like,
But I mean, bro, so being in Cedar Park or Leander, you can buy a house in Liberty Hill for whatever equivalent price range is to Kyle and only drive 30 minutes versus an hour and 15 across.
Well, there's your savings right there. There's your few $100s a month savings just from gas, if he's driving a gas vehicle or wear and tear on your vehicle.
So Alex asked if they would ever impose an income tax, and Phil says income taxes penalize you for working hard. I'd rather pay property tax. I mean, I guess that's fair, because you could buy a home well below your means and save money on property taxes too, and you'd save a lot of money just in general on a monthly, mortgage, or maybe you bought something cash. So, I mean, it's a fair point. It's a fair point, Phil. So Alex says, for an example, an income tax anyone under 300K. I mean, yeah, you gotta understand, people in Texas make a lot more than that. Okay, I gotta take this call. Sorry.
No, you're good. I don't know that all people in Texas, but yeah, there are a lot of people in Texas that make more than that, and so Texas doesn't want to do it. So let's see. You gotta mute yourself. Do you think Texas would ever implement an income tax to offset the high property tax? I hope not, for the same reasons that Phil said.
It's furious because I think it was the master bath. It was still running, and then I don't know what happened with the ceiling, but the ceiling.
All right, I'm gonna pull up. I can't pull it up. I can't show you what I wanted to show you. I was gonna pull up a house and see what what we can get for $1 million right now.
Okay, but the crack
in Austin proper, price per square foot.
Okay.
Huh. I know. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, but they were saying that the damage to the ceiling had not been there before.
So there's some good stuff in here. So let's see. So I'm looking at price per square foot. Let me start with that. Right. So $300 to $400 to almost $800 price per square foot. So 1B, these are, so let's go with that. Let's look this up.
Okay.
So this is 975 square feet for almost $730,000. Right. Let's talk. Okay. Let's look at the property taxes for right now. Built in 1946, remodeled.
So you can have information for me.
Less than a quarter acre. You get 2 beds, 1 bath.
All right.
right? Property taxes, though, the rate is 1.9, which is really good. No HOA, but your estimated tax at that price point, or estimated tax, is still $10,000, right? And so this is kind of what we're talking about. You're paying $10,000 for 900 square feet on this home in Austin proper. So again, comparing this to somewhere like California or New York, it might not seem like such a big deal. But if somebody's coming from California thinking, well, I can get, 2,500 square feet for the same price in Austin, it's not necessarily true.
For the inspector period.
So I'm going to pull up a couple more.
He didn't step through the ceiling, that there was so much stuff in the attic that it came through, I guess, period.
It isn't bad.
He said
1960
was at fault
1,700 square feet,
period. He
almost
also
$350 per square foot. Tax rate 2.17. So for people that do or don't understand this, just remember,
you take his number and said to give him a call.
The price you're going to pay for the house times this to get what your taxes will be, right? And so if you submit an offer on this house at $600,000 and they take it, that's what you want the tax rate to be assessed at. They won't. They'll do their own assessment. But if you were getting assessed at $600,000, you figure out what's 2% of 600,000, and that's how you come up with your actual tax. And that is not including things like homestead, which is what we were talking about earlier. You have your homestead exemption, which gives you, 40 to 70,000 off, something like that. And then you have over 65 exemption and a few other options.
Here's what's interesting about this comment that Rocking Red Poppy. I just want to throw something back at you, just something to think about as well. So he says Texas doesn't take into account that seniors don't have an income to offset the property taxes. Some provisions need to be made for seniors on Social Security. So one thing I will say is that if everyone that moved to Texas got 65 and over exemption, they would have never paid taxes in Texas. So they automatically get the benefit of having a 65 exemption without ever paying taxes or giving into the taxes or any of that. So it's something to think about. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that people that move here and buy a home, they're getting hit with the largest part of the tax burden, not seniors. And on top of that, people that buy investments and business owners foot the largest part of the tax burden as well. So seniors definitely do get a discount. I get that not every senior is going to have an income. Yet that's, I can't help you with that one. But there are some situations where people move here. And the other thing too is in this state, if you're a veteran, a 100% disabled vet, you don't pay property taxes here.
I've had a bunch of those situations. So let's talk more about the senior thing. I don't know this, but I'm thinking when it was written originally, or when they were doing this, they were thinking, well, people are going to live here. They're going to buy their house. They're going to pay off their mortgage. And then they won't owe a mortgage, and all they're paying is property taxes, right? And because they have a homestead exemption early on, their assessed value at this point is like $200,000 on a $700,000 house. And then they have an over 65 exemption. They were writing the rule to that type of person. They were writing the taxes to that type of person. They haven't changed with the times, but that made sense for that type of person.
Could you hear my whole conversation about?
Yeah, I was trying to tell. I was like, stop. I'm waving over here.
That's funny. That's funny. So I just realized that for whatever reason, the audio was coming from my computer, not my mic the whole time. So it's probably the audio. I don't know if the audio has been bad, but that would be why that was. That's hysterical. Yeah. So an inspector damaged my seller's home, and it was like, oh, I didn't do anything. So
I had a listing that closed yesterday, and the agent texted me. She goes, "Did you know the fence was missing?" I was like, "What do you mean missing?" And she sends me a picture, and like 3 panels are just gone. They're not even, it's not blown over. They're just gone. Like somebody needed panels to fix their own fence and came and took it. And, she's the buyer's agent. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what to tell you.
That's
wasn't my
funny.
seller
I
'cause they're
wonder
not
if somebody took it like, oh, mine blew down in the wind. Let me take. Hey,
That's
there
what
was
it feels
strong
like.
wind that just came through today too. So like really
Yeah.
strong wind.
Yeah, but it's just like as it was closing, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if nobody lives in was it a vacant house?
It was vacant. They've probably been watching it.
Yeah.
It was a long escrow period
Mhm.
intentionally. So all of those things. So somebody was like, this is my chance.
That's crazy.
That's
That's
crazy.
That's
Can
crazy.
you imagine you buy a brand new house and you go into your backyard and half the fence is missing? So now if you have dogs or kids or whatever, like that's too bad. You got to get somebody to fix it.
Yeah. You know, they say realtors get into real estate for having an easy schedule and all that money they make. So your phone call proves that, you don't. I mean, look, it's 7:30 at night and I'm dealing with almost 8 o'clock. I'm dealing with issues on listings. You're dealing with stuff. Eileen's in the other room negotiating. It was Sunday night. Eileen was negotiating 2 deals at 9. I was taking an offer at 9 o'clock. Saturday night, she was up till 11 negotiating a deal. So yeah, I mean, all that free time that we have, all that work-life balance, eat, pray, love stuff. All right. It's been an hour. I got to get out of here and deal with stuff. Ian, thanks, man.
Always
All
good
right.
talking to you, man. Thanks, everybody. See y'all.